sell your home. What price are you going to list it at? I have 3 strategies we're going to discuss today. In the end, a home is worth what a buyer in today's market is willing to pay. But there are some strategies that we can employ in order to get the seller the most for that home. The first one, I call the needle in the haystack strategy. And this involves having a unique property, either because it's in an amazing location or it's a house that's unlike any other in the neighborhood or in the surrounding area. It might make sense in this circumstance to reach for the moon and see what you can get for that home, because there may be the perfect buyer who's been looking for that home for the longest period of time. A negative to this strategy would be that it may take a while. And so if you must move quickly, I think this strategy can backfire for you. Strategy number 2 is what I call the reach strategy. This involves determining what similar homes have sold for in the neighborhood or nearby, and then reaching just slightly above that number. Maybe the seller decides to go $20,000 over what the comparable homes in the neighborhood have sold at, and see if there's a buyer out who's looking to pay that number or willing to pay that number. This strategy can sometimes take a little bit longer and requires the seller to be somewhat nimble in that after a week or 2 on the market, the initial buyers out there have spoken. And if they haven't offered that price in this home, it may be detrimental to leave the home priced there. So at a couple weeks out after listing, it makes sense to readdress what the pricing is and drop that pricing down to a more competitive market value. This strategy is a little bit older school than what a lot of people are doing today. Strategy number 3 is one that I see employed quite often today, and I think is the most effective in today's seller's market. It involves working with your agent to determine what the actual market price is most likely to be for your home and come in either at or slightly below that number so that you can create a lot of activity in the initial days and promote the listing so heavily that when the listing goes live and you have open house events and all sorts of attention on the home, that you're going to have lots of people looking at the home as a value, and often we'll look at the other people looking at the home and say, man, I've got to make an offer. And what ends up happening in this case quite often is that you have buyers fighting with one another. In the other 2 circumstances that I talked about, the other 2 strategies, you may get lucky and get a high price, but in a situation where you have buyers fighting against one another, you don't actually have to negotiate very hard with that buyer because they're fighting against each other and they're clawing and kicking to try to give you their best shot to get the home. If you have questions about what your home is worth in today's market and you're thinking about selling, I'd love to be able to help you determine which of these strategies is right for you and how we can get the most for your home.